Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. How are we? Good? Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm thrilled to be invited to speak here this evening, so thank you all. I'm just going to grab my notes, sorry. All right. Well, I knew from about when I was in grade 10 that I wanted to be a Dalhousie Tiger. I'm from Waverley, and Waverley is an old gold mining town, and it's a small town, but my canoe club was Chima, and the colors of Chima Aquatic Club are black and gold. So I was a member of the Chima Aquatic Club from when I was about 3 years old, learned how to swim there, and eventually learned how to paddle there, and I guess black and gold kind of runs through my veins, so I have a huge passion for this school. And it's my honor to be here today and to be able to give back. One of the things that I also always did in my racing career, my former life, is I always used to listen to Eye of the Tiger. And that was my favorite pump-up kind of pre-race song. And later it became Back in Black. But I had so many great memories and just kind of just similarities, I guess, to many of the varsity athletes here at Dalhousie. So I was fortunate and honored to be part of 3 different Olympic teams and Pan Am Games and the World University Games, along with 17 different world championships. And it was my absolute honor to be able to represent Canada. And this summer I was able to go back into the Olympic arena and actually experience sport from a completely different side as part of the CBC broadcast team. And that was just an unbelievable experience. It was totally different, and it was absolutely special. I'd never ever been to Rio, and I absolutely suggest that if you have the opportunity to go and seize that opportunity. It's a fantastic country with so many passionate people and very active people. It's amazing. There's people out walking and cycling and skateboarding and swimming and surfing, and it's just an amazing people. But it was my experiences here at Dal that, and I actually got to spend a very long tenure here at Dal. About 10 years was the duration of both of my degrees while I was concurrently competing around the world. But it was those experiences at Dal that really honed my skills and honed, I guess, my confidence in my learning abilities and just my approach to academics and things like that. And it actually fueled, it spawned really my interest in wellness, health and wellness in general, and really was the birth of my company, I Promise Performance, which is now 7 years old, I'm proud to say. And it also spawned my passion to work with kids through our Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame, an organization that I'm extremely passionate about. And you know that feeling that you get when you're exactly where you're supposed to be? I always feel that at Dal. And I felt that from the first moment that I arrived here after my grade 12 year. My mother went to Dalhousie University, and she gave me a school tour, and I was hooked. I loved it. And whether I was chatting with other athletes during breaks during class, or whether I was talking to professors about my goals or about the plan and things like that, I always felt safe. I always felt respected, I always felt heard, and I always felt encouraged. And I remember, I also loved that if nothing else, at the end of the day, I knew I could get from one end of campus to the other end of campus in about 5 minutes flat, and I could also win any chin-ups competition on any given day. Thanks. I remember a conversation that I had with the amazing late Dr. Carolyn Savoy, with the intention, I was hoping to learn a little bit more about the master's program, And it was after my first Olympic Games in Sydney, and I decided to come back to school at Dal and study. And I remember her saying to me that the pursuit of a master's degree, no one can ever take that away from you. Once you go through that process and learn about yourself and actually attain that degree, and any formal education or any goal that you have as well. But specifically for me, it was important to achieve success not only in sport, but also in academics. And Carolyn was really a pioneer and a mentor for me for that, and for so many of our women athletes as well. And this message this evening is around harnessing potential through personal leadership. So if you'll indulge me, I have an acronym. I always present with acronyms. The word is lead, and the first letter L stands for learning and growth. So just for a moment, I'd like each and every one of you to think back over your careers here at Dal or your time and your contribution. I want you to think about the person in your life that's been the most significant impact for you, to be who you are today, where you are right now. Just for a moment, just remind yourself of who that person is, and just say a quiet thank you to that person in the spirit of the season and the evening. And now, what I'd like you to do is turn to the person sitting right next to you and either give them a fist bump or a high five. And I'd like you to say to that person, thank you for being an awesome leader. Thank you for being an awesome leader. Awesome, thank you. And I'm high-fiving all of you. And now what I'd like you to do, is give yourselves a big bear hug, like a really good massage of the shoulders and the neck area, right? And I want you to say to yourself, thank you for being an awesome leader. Thank you for being an awesome leader. So each and every one of us has the opportunity to lead, and each and every one of us has the opportunity to be led or to be mentored. And I just wanted to take that opportunity to acknowledge that. So thanks for doing that. And my dad always shared with me one of his he always does words of wisdom, and one of his biggest words of wisdom to me is always to be honorable in your intention and your effort, and be your best self. And that to me is so, so meaningful. And he also taught me that the gold is always in the journey. It's not always at the top of the mountain. And I have a little story that I want to share with you guys just to kind of illustrate that. So this story goes back to the year 2000, which was I was just finishing my undergraduate degree here at Dal, and I loved exercise physiology. And so this was the Olympic Games in Sydney. And I remember preparing for that race like it was the race of my life, right? It was 4 years that I prepared for it. And it was the race, it was the day of the final. And I remember waking up the morning of that final to hurricane force winds. 90-kilometer winds that day. Who's tried kayaking in this room? Right? Am I right? It's so intensely hard to kayak in the flat water, let alone in the wind. And that day, I remember literally trying not to fall in the water. Waves were crashing over the front of the boat, and I was trying not to swallow water. And somehow, we ended up on the start line at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We were supposed to race at 10 o'clock that morning. And the whole day was like a whirlwind. You know, you were called on and off the start line. It was chaos. And being on that start line finally at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I was ready, but I was terrified because I didn't know if I was going to make it down the race course or not. So about partway through that race, you know, waves are crashing, the boat's bouncing. We're trying every fiber of our being. I was racing in the double, the K2. And we were tight in with about 5 crews. There was 5 of us in a line. And we crossed the line in 5th place. We were favored for a medal, 5th in the world. And I felt empty. I felt like I'd given absolutely everything that I could physically, mentally, emotionally. I was done. But worst of all, I felt that I'd failed. And I held that feeling for a few minutes as I was circling around in that cool down area. And I thought of the kids at my canoe club at Chima who were watching that race live. They were having a sleepover, and they were all staying up really late to watch that race. And my thoughts went to them. And my message was the one that my dad gave me, is that there is gold in the journey. That gold is not, some of us get that amazing moment where we stand on the top of the mountain or the top of the podium and it all fits and it all works. But a lot of the times it's about that challenge, and it's about, learning a bit about ourselves and figuring out who we are in those challenging times. Well, one of the most challenging times for me, aside from that, was 4 years later. I was preparing for the Athens Olympic Games, and I was diagnosed with a disc hernia at L5 and S1. And I love that I can say that, and you guys know exactly where I mean in the body. But so that disc hernia taught me that personal learning around how to navigate challenge, how to do things a bit differently, because I couldn't train the way that I was currently training and still be able to manage that injury. But, times of challenge and times of that, where our personal grit is tested is where we learn the most about ourselves. And that, to me, is of value, and it's the gold. So there's black and gold, just like us, in every single moment. And that's really what I took from that. I also knew the minute that I started at Dal that I could be the best in the world being right here in Halifax. And I loved that because my coach was here and my training group was here. And I walked into Dal, and one of my first meetings, Dr. Nigel Kemp was my academic advisor, and I knew he coached a world champion and world record holder. And I hadn't attained that level yet in sport. And I knew also, I met Dr. Sandy Young. And what an amazing man he was, and what a spirit to our Nova Scotia sport history, and his contribution to sport in general as well here in the Atlantic provinces. And it really was through that meeting that I was introduced to the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame, of which I'm so passionate and deeply involved with now. And I remember one of our class assignments, he took us all, the whole class, to the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame induction night. And who was being inducted that night? There was no coincidence. It was my first ever coach and her coach, who is actually our club founder. So it was Ann Dodge and Frank Garner. So right from that moment, I knew I was in the most amazing place in the world to study. And that to me meant the world. And so many other professors, lots of you are in the room this evening. Each and every one of you has made such a significant impact on me. And I thank you all for the work that you do and for your connection to the students and to the faculty here at our school. E stands for energy, and each of us are responsible for our own energy. We wear our energy like we wear our clothes. And we can choose it, we can put it on, and we can embrace it. And I remember after the Olympic Games in Sydney, that was really where I had the spark in my mind to study and really intensively study the mind and how the mind works. And it got me into those sports psychology conversations. And through my master's degree and then on into further education, I got to go down to the HeartMath Institute in California and study and be part of the group down there. And it's amazing research around resilience and just the awareness of emotions and its impact on our health. And that's really in large part the corporate work that I get to do now with companies and with kids as well. And with energy, it's whatever you give, you always receive back tenfold. And I'm a big believer in that. in that energy. A stands for attitude. And being an idealist and an optimist is in my nature. It's my parents are the same way. But it was, I remember having a conversation with my coach after the Olympic Games, and we were just, there was a group of us, and we were all training on the lake in Waverley. And he kind of took us aside and was challenging us a little bit on our work ethic. And I said to him, "Chum, it's only practice." And he told me exactly. So the practice is so important, right? The process, the energy that you bring, the attitude that you bring, the day-to-day stuff. And I always found it was interesting that he never ever called it a workout. It was always practice. And there was a different intention and energy around that when he said that. So each of us has our own journey with health and wellness, and there's the combined knowledge and experience and expertise and passion that's here in the room this evening. I hope that you seize it. I hope that you connect to it and stay connected to it through mentoring or something like that. And just be part of this amazing alumni community that we are here at the School of Health and Human Performance. Most recently, in my retirement from professional kayaking, I've taken up the sport of golf. Golf's my new favorite. I absolutely love it. And my golf buddy, Lori, can attest, and she's also a sports psych friend of mine. She can attest that attitude is everything, right? It can raise you to a new altitude, or it can put you off into the fescue and all the way off into nowhere land. But as in anything in life, it's about standing tall in those moments. Standing tall, whether it be on the tee box, on the podium, in front of the podium, or at the boardroom table. It's about standing tall and breathing and just really embracing the moment, but also trusting every ounce of experience that you've had to that point to get you to that moment, and know that you have everything that you need in that time. D stands for discipline, and that's about taking it one step at a time. So building momentum, building connections, building collaborations, having those conversations. And I like to talk about the power process. Well, power process is that present practice that I just spoke about, and really having that intention of doing that supreme focused effort. So now more than ever, the performances and contributions of women are inspiring so many, and our women's team in Rio was such a great example of that, lifting the performances of our entire Olympic team and the whole nation. On the corporate side, we're moving towards a time where voices are equally heard and equally respected and equally paid, but there's still work to do. And in the research world, I'm sure it's the same way. Our field is becoming ever more prominent and important in today's workforce and in today's government and policy building. And having the guts and the grit to lead means stepping outside of your comfort zone just a little bit sometimes, challenging that status quo and doing the things that not everybody does. And this is similar to the challenge of being a student athlete. I'm deeply honored to be here tonight, to be asked to speak at our 50th anniversary celebration. And I'm also humbled to be given the honor to announce our scholarship that's intended for young, upcoming, promising women student athletes here at our school. Encouraging young women to be a driving voice in that wellness conversation. Values and vision, and to live them fully and be able to communicate them with the intention of helping people. And it's because of you, each and every one of you, that so many strong, beautiful women can continue to foster her leadership here at Dalhousie. I'm excited to announce the Karen Furneaux Scholarship for Women in Sport Fund officially open. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of this evening.